Calaroga Shark Media.
Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I really am trying not to turn this into a political podcast at all. The reality is all the news continues to be political. I actually deep dove today to try and find some other things. Didn't find much, but I did find this one from the National Enquirer. Remember them? They spoke with an insider from the Seinfeld camp. The insider says Jerry turned his annoyances into a goldmine with his comedy performances and TV show, but the complaining used to be a secret weapon, and now it just gets on people's nerves. This is one of the most successful people in the history of show business, financially and artistically, but he's almost allergic to counting his blessings. It's not a good look for a man at retirement age with more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. I mentioned in the Facebook group recently, Daily Comedy News Podcast group, I teach a college class. None of my students had any idea who Jerry Seinfeld is and weren't familiar with the sitcom Seinfeld. Then I teach at two colleges. Then at the other class, I told them about the first class, and the second class was like, that's insane. They all knew who Jerry was, so who knows? The insider says he's very upset about the Israel situation, and his 2024 Netflix movie, Unfrosted, was a struggle to get made and then terribly received. I thought it was pretty good. The thing that could snap Jerry out of his rut would be a fun new project or challenge that he can really sink his teeth into, like the way his old friend Larry David is launching a new TV show with Barack and Michelle Obama's production company. The problem is, Jerry's not really on the hunt for anything like that right now. As far as he's concerned, he's done it all, and people still don't appreciate him enough. Interesting. Theo Vaughn went to see the Vanderbilt Commodores take on the LSU Tigers. While he was there, he ran into the folks from Outkick the Show, and they asked him about baseball. Theo Vaughn had this to say.
Shohei Ohtani, will we ever see another?
We're not going to get as many Shoheis anymore because of the tariffs, dude. Take down the tariffs and get us more Shoheis.
Slight edits there for language. All right, I tried as long as I could. Joe Rogan, on his podcast, said that he disagrees with President Trump's approach to talking about his adversaries. Rogan commented when at Charlie Kirk's memorial, the president said, "I hate my opponent and I don't want the best for them." Rogan said, "I don't agree with any of that. He's a nut." Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom is trying really, really hard to get Joe Rogan to book him. He keeps poking at Rogan on social media. Rogan said if he interviewed Newsom, he would cook himself. In response to that, Gavin Newsom tweeted a chicken emoji alongside the words "bok bok" at Joe Rogan. Last week, Newsom's press office went on social media in the President Trump all-caps style and wrote, "Joe Rogan is a snack-sized podcaster who can't stop talking about me. Obsessed. Crush? No thank you. But is too scared to have me on." Brian Callen was at Camp Pendleton on Saturday. It was the celebration of the U.S. Marine Corps' 250th anniversary. Brian Callen warmed up for Vice President J.D. Vance. Callen praised President Trump for bringing peace to the Mideast for the first time since Moses had a parting of the ways with Pharaoh. Unfortunately, there was some news on Sunday that the peace might not be lasting. Johnny Mac is pro-peace. Cat Williams got an honorary doctorate from Miles College. President Bobby Knight said it's not every day that people get an honorary doctorate. It's because of you and what you've done, and we just want to show you how much we appreciate you and recognize you for all the work you've done. Cat accepted his doctorate in humane letters and said in a very short period of time, no one could deserve this more than me. It was going to take a mighty fine institution to recognize that. I serve a God that insists that my cup runneth over, and those smiles that I sell for a living, those have miles right in the middle of it. So you get it? It was Miles College? Yeah, I had to go back and check. I had forgotten already, too. Cat Williams is building a studio in the local area. He recently told GQ, it's not just fair to put all that pressure on Tyler Perry. He can only do so much. Did you watch Saturday Night Live? People on the internet were not happy about it. The episode generated several topics. Let's start with this one, since everything is political now. During the news, Colin Jost told a joke. The setup involved the U.S. sending more than $40 billion to Argentina to help bail out their economy. Jost said, if history's any guide, a lot of Trump officials will end up fleeing to Argentina. People in the audience didn't seem to get the joke. In case you are not familiar, many Nazi war criminals fled to Argentina after World War II. The joke got barely any laughter. Jost said, hey, one clap. People on social media were not amused. One person tweeted, Colin Jost needs to be fired effective immediately for his sickening comments last night. Another said, Colin Jost is a sellout hack and doesn't deserve to be married to Scarlett Johansson. Wow, we're not only canceling him, we're going to get him divorced. Bowen Yang was not on the live show, although he appeared, I believe, in some recorded things. He was in Los Angeles to receive the Vantage Award. The show opened with a Domingo sketch. A lot of people were surprised they didn't do something political. Others were surprised at how unfunny the sketch was. Johnny Mac will continue to say, Marcelo Hernandez does one thing well, and he does one thing repeatedly. Then during the news, Marcelo showed up again and did a totally different character, the movie guy, who's not like Domingo at all. It's a totally different character. Just awful. One person on Threads, who username 3x1-1, wrote, convinced that Lorne is in the Epstein files, and Marcelo knows, and Lorne knows he knows. It's the only thing that explains the weekly recurring Domingo nightmare. Sierra Cascadia wrote, if SNL were an NFL team right now, it'd be the Jets. Show's off for a couple weeks. Miles Taylor will host on November 1st. Musical guest Brandi Carlile. November 8th, Nikki Glazer is the host. Her agent's getting it done. She will have a Hulu special in 2026 because she supports fascism. Did she not break up with them after the Jimmy Kimmel thing? You're not supposed to do business with Hulu or Disney, remember? Musical guest Somber. November 15th, Glenn Powell is your host. Olivia Dean, musical guest. I also saw some comments about James Austin Johnson's Trump continuing to not hit the mark. I've been commenting that since last year. It is drifting. People are pointing out that James is still doing the 2016 Trump and not the current, slightly older Trump that you might want to do. But what do I know? I don't do impressions. I do half-assed impressions. And as a listener, you know how good those are. Jamarco Cerezi talked to currentaffairs.org about crowd work and said, you never know. A lot of times it goes sideways. The person's trying to be funny and it messes up, or they lie, or someone interrupts. So you're only seeing the times that it works. Sometimes people write, he never misses. And I'm like, well, I don't caption the misses. I don't send those to my editor and say, let's get these up on YouTube ASAP. It's always a risk. There are some days I'm feeling riskier than others. And other days I'm like, whether the audience is too far away or it's too dark, I go, it's not going to work. And other times the story just falls in your lap. And even though I've never surfed, I equate it to what that must feel like. You're in a flow, you're on a balance beam, and you're like, I can't believe I'm still up here, I'm still walking, and you decide, when do I need to jump off? Every once in a while when you're up there, you're like, oh my God, I've been up here for 12 minutes. It's cool, it's exciting, it makes me feel alive. Some people are curious about South Park, so all of a sudden, last week, South Park was like, yeah, season 27's over, this is season 28. And people are like, huh? Some wondered, is this some way to fulfill some sort of contractual obligation? That was my guess. Others thought maybe the tail end of season 27 was going to do more with the Charlie Kirk stuff that appeared earlier in the season. Then they were like, we shouldn't do that. But a representative for the show said season 27 was never meant to be 10 episodes. The showrunners planned all along for seasons 27 and 28 to be 5 episodes each. Comedy Central told The Hollywood Reporter, no announcement was made regarding how many episodes would be in season 27. Anyway, season 27 is 5 episodes long, and then they took a 3-week break, and now the season 28 premiere. Meanwhile, some people are upset with The Simpsons. They've sort of reset the timeline again, and now Homer and Marge are millennials. The season 32 episode Do Pizza Bots Dream of Electric Guitars featured a flashback of Homer as a 1990s era teen. The season 37 premiere had Lisa cashing in on 90s nostalgia by wearing the old clothes of Marge, who was a 90s kid. Showrunner Matt Selman told Entertainment Weekly, the options are, we don't do flashback shows ever and we don't mention the past ever, which creatively handcuffs us, or we're playful and silly, which is the DNA of the show, and we have fun with whatever generation the show's airing in. If the show only took place in the present with a kind of vague 1970s high school Homer and backstory that seems increasingly impossible, that would be much worse for telling good stories. Simpsons scholar The Real Jims pointed out that the show had already been subtly changing the characters' birth years throughout the classic era. Then in the middle run, and there's a million seasons here, so I don't know, throw a dart and say like season 17 or so, the show avoided flashback episodes. Then in 2008, an episode called That 90s Show, which had a whole new backstory for Homer and Marge. Selman argues, part of telling stories is people remembering things from their youth, their childhood. Everyone's childhood is directly responsible for how they behave as an adult. You can't ignore childhood if you're going to be a storyteller, so we're not ignoring childhood. It would have been interesting as an experiment to just lock into the 70s and have them be like, well, Lisa, when I was a kid in the 70s, and just have it all be about the 70s, even though we live in the post-apocalyptic future now. Selman says, I would also like to point out that no way are we saying that the beloved other flashbacks didn't happen. We're not saying that. It's just a silly little show. Everything happened with the same level of historical veracity. I'm not worried about messing with the timeline. I feel like story and character should come first, and the cinematic universe rules of a show that has none should come in a distant second. Sound like he'd be a good showrunner for modern Star Trek.
Gossip Corner, whispers in the street. Gossip Corner, probably about Pete. Gossip Corner, where the rumors meet. With Johnny Mac, it's always a treat.
I'll be singing that all day, and today Gossip Corner is about Pete Davidson, who recently performed at the Riyadh Comedy Festival, and Pete Davidson's father was killed on 9/11. Pete surprised his pregnant girlfriend, Elsie Hewitt, with a private jet date to go see Paul McCartney in concert on Friday. Elsie posted on Instagram, "Pete is taking me on a surprise date." Pete Davidson sat across from her on the private plane. So if you're like, hey, why would you play the Riyadh Comedy Festival? Because then you have money to take a private plane to go see Paul McCartney. They took the plane to Minnesota to attend Paul McCartney's show at US Bank Stadium. Now, to be fair to Pete Davidson, Paul McCartney does not have any current tour dates scheduled anywhere near Staten Island. I know this because I would go see Paul McCartney, and I just checked on the website. Hewitt said, "That was like a really special little bucket list moment for me. Paul is pretty much the one person I've always wanted to meet. Do I have the sweetest, most thoughtful boyfriend or what?" Meanwhile, Kim Kardashian was on a podcast and talked about her romance with Pete Davidson. She recalled how her ex-husband Kanye West taunted Pete during a music video in 2022. Kim said, "That made me feel really sad. That really wasn't fair for him." The NBA is back tonight. Now, I had noticed this, and I kept forgetting to mention it, and I finally remembered to put it in the notes. NBC is going to air basketball games at 11 p.m. Now, why that's interesting is because, well, you can't play basketball in 35 minutes, which means the Tonight Show either gets preempted or delayed, and I checked the schedule this week. The Tonight Show is scheduled for 1 a.m., so they're going to produce new episodes, which I guess on the West Coast will still air at 11:30. But on the East Coast, the Tonight Show is going to be airing at 1 a.m. on Tuesdays. I haven't seen this reported anywhere, but that's interesting, isn't it? And that probably won't be good for Jimmy's ratings. Jimmy was in Scotland, and some Scottish soldiers hosted him for a special dinner. Jimmy had been touring the grounds of Balmoral Castle. I know about that place from writing the Palace Intrigue podcast, which cross-promotion. I don't know if you heard the whole Prince Andrew thing. It's actually, let me get the little tone of voice. It's really, really horrible. Earlier today, I sent Mark Francis, who's the host of Palace Intrigue, I wrote the scripts and I sent it to him, and I was like, dude, this is nothing but horrible, and my stomach is going to turn. I don't even want to talk about it on this show. Just horrible, horrible, horrible. Anyway, Palace Intrigue, wherever you get your shows. Jimmy Fallon was at Balmoral. One of the soldiers recognized him and invited him to the barracks. He was greeted with kilts and bagpipes by soldiers from 5th Battalion, the Royal Regiment of Scotland. Jimmy signed the visitor's book at Victoria Barracks in the village. He then saw a small ceremonial guard of soldiers rehearsing for the King's departure. Major Thomas Blair said, "What started as a chance meeting near Balmoral turned into a brilliant evening. It's not every day you get to meet a Hollywood A-lister, and we were delighted to welcome him to Scotland in true Scots style." That made me ponder for a second. Is Jimmy Fallon an A-lister? I guess he is. He does host The Tonight Show. But is like Seth Meyers an A-lister? I don't know if Seth Meyers is an A-lister. Mel Hall will premiere his debut special, What Are We Doing Today?, on the 800-Pound Gorilla YouTube channel. Filmed in San Diego, Mel Hall delivers his take on the chaos of millennial parenthood and the wild ride of raising kids in a world where Gen Z is judging your every move. From choosing the right words to parent with to surviving Costco on a Saturday, he finds humor in the everyday madness. Yeah, I've got a college-age child, and I regularly get canceled just for speaking the way someone my age does. I come in peace. I get canceled all the time here in my house. Mel Hall said, "This special represents not just where I am today, but the 15-plus years of shows that got me here." The Great Outdoors Comedy Festival announced some of the lineup for next year. Matt Rife will headline 6 weekends at Edmonton, Winnipeg, Halifax, Calgary, Spokane, and Vancouver. Nikki Glazer will headline in Halifax. Also on that show, Fortune fame star Steph Tolev. More lineup reveals to come. And that is your comedy news on a Tuesday. Hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you here tomorrow.